At this hour, as we get into our conversations, we're going to be looking at the race to State House. Both our guests are in the studio this morning. I want to say for the first time in the situation for both of you. And then tell me if I'm lying. Elijah Sawa is a youth leader, UDA, and he joins us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu Sana.
Asante.
And Evans Wafula, political analyst. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm okay.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for the invite.
Karibu Sana. Thank you both of you for being here. We've come off an interesting weekend looking into the politics of it all, and we'll get into that conversation this morning. But before we do that, even though everybody went west, Asato went somewhere else. He'll tell you where that is, and then we'd love to hear your interpretation of his proverb.
Yep. Today we are in Malawi. It is considered to be the warm heart of Africa, reflecting the warmth of its people. Now, one thing that stands out in the country is Lake Malawi is 20% of it covers the land of the country. And in there is where you'll get different species across the world. Majority of the species you'll only find in that lake. So if you love deep diving, snorkeling,
yeah,
that's where you go to. But the proverb that we get this morning, always remember, empty seats are better than wrong company. Always remember, empty seats are better than wrong company. How would you interpret it, Sai?
Thank you, Dennis. So how I look at it, because essentially what you mean is that you'd rather be alone than to be with people who give you the wrong advice.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how I would interpret it. Like, you'd rather not have anyone supporting you at all than have support from hyenas or people who are there to take advantage of you.
I think that's a great animal that you've chosen to use this morning.
Well, how would you interpret it?
Just from an abstract, I would think about self-love. That you'd rather love yourself, like yourself, be able to do your own stuff before you able to maybe bring people in or share with people. So I think it's more of like empty seats are better than bad company. For me, I think it's almost about self-individualization.
Individualization.
Yeah.
Asante Sana, well interpreted.
Indeed. That was fun. Okay, so let's get into the conversation this morning. And we're looking at State House, the road to State House 20, or the race rather, to State House 2027. And the question that we're asking, that everybody is asking, if we're going to go by the crowds that we saw over the weekend, if we're going to go by the things that we heard, if we're going to see the mobilization that happened, is Nairobi Senator Sifuna his presidential bid a game changer come next year? Is it a game changer? We'll start with you, Elijah.
Sondu, I don't think there is any presidential bid per se yet in Sifuna. I strongly believe so because, it's not easy to mount into a solid presidential option in this country. Largely, we normally have more of 2 to 3 horse race. Mm-hmm. So when I look at it today, where Sifuna sits is very far from a serious presidential candidate, and I'll tell you why. Mm-hmm. When you look at it, one, a serious presidential candidate needs to have a solid base.
Okay.
So far, Sifuna has no base. What they are trying to do is to build a euphoria that Western Kenya is his base. But when you look at it, he's still far from it. Mm. Number 2, he needs to have consistent and organic following and also very, very solid and I'd say independent financing. When you look at it, so far we are being told that Sifuna is being financed through M-Pesa tills by Kenyans who are paying 10 shillings. And yesterday we even saw Kenyans contributing money to him around his vehicle. Mm-hmm. But when I look at it, honestly speaking, is that because I'm running for MP in Nandi Hills, mm-hmm. and I know very well what it means to amount logistical financing for campaign. It's not easy even for just MP. Mm-hmm. Hiring a chopper from Wilson's to Bungoma, flying from Bungoma to another place, and coming back one day is over 2 million shillings for one chopper. Mm-hmm. Linda Mwananchi had over 3 choppers. They had tens of vehicles, Gaslers. I can tell you for sure, the 10 shillings, the 2 million that was contributed by Kenyans in the last 1 week could not even do half of the job. And looking into the future, that's not going to happen. Finally, is having a very solid political infrastructure in terms of a political party. And even following and structures. Today in Linda Mwananchi, we are being told that the governor of Siaya, Orengo, is the party leader, and Sifuna is the presidential candidate. I don't know what Babu Owino is. So there is still a lot of arithmetics to be done around that. So not yet for me, not yet.
And what about you, Evans?
Okay, I really disagree with him, because if you look at, for me, Sifuna is like the Senegalese president, Faye, being a tax collector, coming into the scene with nothing. And that's what I'm seeing about Sifuna. Sifuna is riding on the fact that young, jobless, hopeless youth who are yearning for change. And he has actually realized that there's a vacuum that now it's more of generational moment in our Kenyan politics. We're used to the old guards. We're used to the old way of doing politics. But I think he's representing what I think when the Gen Z went to the street and they were talking about leaderless, I think they're now able to see that they can resonate with somebody who is young, somebody who is not experienced but ambitious. And I think that's the most critical thing, that Sifuna understands that what he needs to do now is to appeal not only to the Luya or the Mulembe nation, but to cut across the Kenyan, the social fabric of the Kenyan society, being able to appeal to every people. And you can see that from the Linda Mwananchi Brigade. I think it's not only that, look at the people who are there. I mean, they cut across the country. And I think that's what people have been expecting, and have been lacking that. The fact that he went to Bungoma, I think, and the endorsement that he got yesterday from Musikari Kombo, it's very critical. I mean, I come from that background of... it is more of a ritual. Me, yesterday, what I saw is more of a ritual than just endorsing him. Because for the first time, I think after only Raila could galvanize such support. And I saw yesterday that, and even in Trans Nzoia, that what Sifuna was doing is that he was trying to awaken the population there. But what we expect, and I think in a few weeks, we're going to witness a lot of defections. And mostly from even the ruling party itself, from Ford Kenya, from other parties that feel now they need to align with this generational political landscape.
Someone would look at because what happened over the weekend in Bungoma is exactly what we saw it. But you equally have to go back to previous rallies that Linda Mwananchi Brigade has had. So you remember in Mombasa, go to Kisumu, you have to go to Kajiado, and you look at all these meetings in terms of how natural it is, how organic it is, And even now, when you talk about campaign financing, for a very long time, campaign financing in this country has been seen as one of the ways within which money laundering takes place, because nobody ever comes forth to tell us where that money came from that they're spending. But through Linda Mwananchi, now we're seeing something different, where one would argue the people are contributing towards my campaign. IBC has set the cap at 4 billion. But are we going further to ask the question, this 4 billion that you're getting, where is it from? Do you have receipts? Do you have withdrawals from bank on how you're spending this money? So is Linda Mwananchi then coming forth to change how campaigns will be done in the country moving forward?
Dennis, fair point. And I really hope, as a young person in this country who still believes that we have a great future as a country, I would really wish to believe that what is happening is a paradigm shift in terms of how our campaign will be financed, how our electorates are reasoning, how Kenyans are owning up their political leaders, and removing these capturing of ideas by people who are wealthy and financing politicians. Then eventually they come to ask for favors in terms of tenders, and they do misappropriation, they cause corruption. People build a classroom that you could build for 1 million with 5 million simply because they financed your campaign. So as someone who really believes in this country, I'd want to believe that that is what is happening. But as Ivan said, that he tried to put Sifuna as where Faye was in Senegal. But remember, for Faye, the real candidate was Sonko. Osman Sonko was the candidate that had the following, and when he was stopped from running, similarly, the way we are seeing what is happening with the likes of Gachagua, not being allowed to run, and what Osman Sonko did was just to hand over his following to Faye. And you saw what happened the other day when Sonko started to increasingly change how Senegal politics is being run. Faye withdrew his support, and the following day was elected as a Speaker of the National Assembly and potentially has power to even impeach him. And you never know, maybe he's coming in to take over from him. So what I saw was borrowed political support, which was hidden as organic support. What I can tell you for sure is that if today you as Dennis, we saw what Gen Zs tried to do, the likes of Morara Kebasu, and the entire team, they tried to go around and look for support, but eventually they didn't get it. Because I can assure you today, if you go to any city in this country and you don't mobilize, you are not coming with a lot of, let me call it lagis, many 4x4 vehicles, very nice sound, crowds, motorbikes, people are mobilized, it's well publicized, the artwork is good, there is branding. If you don't do that, nobody will take you seriously. You can see what is happening with Baraga and all these other people. So honestly speaking, is that for you to amount to what you are seeing Sifuna is today, there is a very, very strong hand behind him in terms of financing.
And is that an issue?
So the issue that I have with that is that we need to see him the way we see all the other politicians, because that's not different with William Ruto, that's not different with any other presidential candidate that we've had. So Sifuna is not giving us any alternative as young people. Because
to do what?
To do what exactly?
Because the alternative that we are really looking for, if we have two choices that we have to make. We have to either be realistic and stick to what is possible, or chart a new way forward, and radically so. If you want to go to that route of saying we want to stop how politics is currently being done and look for a totally new leadership, then a totally new leadership would not come from a Siaya governor who has a whole government to run and is busy in Bungoma saying that he wants power to come and do things well. Yet he has executive power. He's one of the governments that we have. He could show us what he could do within that position. Babu Owino, I was in zone with Babu Owino. I know the character of the gentleman. He is not going to give us any new alternatives. This is someone I know. We've seen Sifuna, what he's doing in Senate, and some of the stance he's had. I can't tell you today that Sifuna, honestly, is a totally, it represents what we think as young people.
So if that argument is to be taken to its logical conclusion, then you could actually say then that William Ruto as well would not be able to offer anything new for Kenya.
I mean, and I haven't actually pushed to say that William Ruto is offering a totally new way of doing politics. He's just doing politics the way ideally politics is being done in Kenya today, and what
He's just doing it the way it's being done.
The way it's being done.
And from what you're saying is that that's not acceptable.
Not necessarily acceptable. What I'm saying is he's not changing how politics is done in Kenya. The same way politics was done in 1992, 1997, 2013 is exactly the same way William Ruto is doing, and it's exactly the same way Sifuna is doing.
Exactly.
Wafula.
So what you're saying is that everybody across board needs to do it differently.
Yes.
And right now, nobody is offering a solution. Nobody is offering a solution that Kenyans need.
Not really. In terms of actual solutions that we are looking for as Kenyans, in terms of building this country and improving justice, the independence of the arms of government, development, I'd say that we've sort of accepted as a country to move with the pace that we've been moving from 1963 upwards. Nobody has taken a different trajectory. What we're looking for and mostly what Gen Zs were looking for, if you look at their ideals, they're looking for a government that would run 100% devoid of corruption.
Okay.
They're looking for a government that would be entirely independent. The parliament is entirely independent from the executive, and the judiciary is entirely independent. That's what the young people are looking for. The young people are looking for a result-oriented government where when you pay 2.5% in tax, you get the same quality in terms of housing, you get the same quality in terms of roads, etc. I can't tell you today that I can't sit here and tell you that what Gen Zs were looking for is what Sifuna is going to offer. So what I see is same. I mean,
It's interesting that you say that. I think your party leader might be interested to know what your position is.
I totally.
And by the way, before maybe I hand over to you, what I don't want you to confuse what I'm saying is, I'm not trying to say that I'm denying that William Ruto is worth my support. No, he is, because that is my reality today. And what I'm just saying is that Sifuna is not any different. I don't have a reason to focus on what he's doing because it's not different.
Wafula.
I really depart a lot from your point of view. I think, as I mentioned, that this is a generational moment in the way politics is being done in Kenya. And you see, we've always been saying that, for example, that the youth do not participate in elections. We've seen them coming now, registering in large numbers. But the question has always been that the issue of leaderless is being now answered with somebody they feel they can resonate with. Sifuna at 40s, they feel that this is a person we can resonate with. He listens, he understands our language, he understands our plight. And that's why you've heard Sifuna talk about that, for example, the youth do not want to see houses or roads, but they want money in their pocket. They want to feel that they can have economic emancipation. They want to have money to be able to do what is basic for them. And there's a huge population of young people out here who feel hopeless. And that's where he's coming in. But you also understand the task ahead of him. You've talked about, we've used the example of Senegal. And it's exactly what is going to play here. If Gachagua, you feel that he's going to be locked out, then there's no problem if Sifuna is handing it over to Sifuna. And that's why Sifuna understands that it's not only about him, but he has to, again, talk across the political divide and build coalition of the willing so that he can be able also to put in everybody in his quest for state house.
Wafula, if we talk about how campaigns or how politics has been played in the country for a very long time, the reason why I'm seeing something different, in my opinion, is the fact that for the very first time we're seeing a leader who's telling Onanchi, they've said I don't have money, but the money will be given to me for campaign by you, and goes further ahead and receives it. When you talk about branding, as Sayo has said, we know of Kenyans who've said, I will offer my graphic design to you for free. You know, there are those who are saying that even others who decamped from ODM and said, I'm going to be a DJ to you and I'm going to offer my services. I'm going to offer sound and everything else. So when you surmount everything together, then you're looking at a citizen-led campaign where people will say, we own this leader because we played a role in him getting there in one way or the other, you know. And that is a departure from what we've seen in this country, where someone will come with their billions without explaining where it's coming from, and they would be voted in. Is this then a game changer because we say we want it to be like them? If you look at even the US elections, there are donations. People go out and they're
people buying dinner for $1 million.
Dinner for $1 million.
Yeah.
And that is how campaigns are done. Are we seeing a departure from how things have been happening before and now a citizen-led agenda campaign being pushed by Wananchi?
Absolutely. I mean, our politics has been run like sort of a club of the wealth and the rich. But now you see, we are departing from that, where people, the sense of ownership, that we own the process, the so-called people's president. Sifuna exemplifies that humility, that you saw yesterday, a young girl who just came up on the car and they were able to raise money for this young girl. At the same time, people are fundraising for this is what people want to see. They don't want to see that our politics is driven by people who you don't know how they got their money, but then it looks like power of rising to power is an enterprise. So we are going to make our politics not being an enterprise, but being people-driven, being politics that is driven by the people. But nowadays, if you talk about anybody going for a political seat, it's about how much money has that person made. My friend started by talking about hiring a chopper. Probably Sifuna I saw another man using a donkey going to vote. There was a young man who used a bicycle. So I think the issue of money and politics is what is being redefined here. And I think the young generation, the young people, what we are saying is that maybe they're departing from that, and that's going to be good for democracy.
Sawa, is it scary? Is it scary to imagine that the people of Kenya are opening their mouths and establishing their voice, and maybe that's why it's met with, a lot of negativity? Is this a scary thought?
There is the reality and there is what is being played in the gallery. If indeed, so when you look at it, me, I sit in both ends. I was raised in the village. I'm in the village every 2 weeks or every week because of my interaction with the people there. The people who sit online, on Twitter, in these cities, they may actually not feel how much we have over two different sects of people. And I can tell you, in every 10 young people, one person has the education of the people who are tweeting and the luxury and the comfort and the exposure of the people tweeting. 9 of them are still in the village, hoping that they would land a job, they would land someone to sponsor them to get a good education, that they would get government recognize their talent, that they would get a leader who would come and open doors for whatever vision they have. So all these things are only happening to the one person out of 10. So the 9 are still left behind. I would really wish that when we are talking about all these things, we would actually see what is happening in the ground. If you go to Bungoma, for instance, and you focus on a YouTube live where people contribute 100 shillings, even if 1,000 people contributed that money. Of course, we only saw it for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
In total sum, whatever was raised there would be less than 10,000. The monies that was used to mobilize that crowd, I can tell you, is nothing less than 2 million.
So this is the thing that I want to ask, is that I think the focus that you're placing is on the actual shillings that were collected, as opposed to the symbolism of the fact that the people of Kenya
It's the symbolism that I have the problem with.
So why do you have a problem with the symbolism?
Because it's not the truth.
The people who were in Bungoma, the pictures that we saw were not manufactured. Those were not people who were tweeting. Those were actual human blood-thumping bodies in those villages. I'm going to talk about villages because that's what you brought up.
Yes.
Those were the people. They were there and they were banking on a hope. The thing that brings people out into the street from the village is hope. And that's what we're talking about. And that's why I come back to my question, is it a scary thought to imagine that the people of Kenya still have hope and still say that it's possible and want to give it another go and say, perhaps this is the guy who could do this? Is that a scary thought?
I would be scared if Sifuna would have gone with his one vehicle that he uses, gone there or landed in a donkey the same way he says. No oomph, no lagis, no noise. People are not mobilized. Border people are not mobilized to bring people to the city. People are not given money to come and hand over in those kasukus and say they are contributing. I would be scared.
Also,
but because I know what is happening,
saying that
that's manufactured.
So you're saying the people
whole
who
thing
gave,
is manufactured.
So how do you know that the people who gave this money were given? Did you see this? Did you know?
I can assure you.
How so?
Assure you this is manufactured because I've been there.
Okay. You were in Bungoma over the weekend?
I wasn't this weekend.
Okay.
I haven't attended Linda Mwananchi rally, but I've attended so many political rallies. I've attended
who was doing
URP
what?
rallies, ODM rallies,
UDA rallies,
Jubilee.
So
and
hang
I
on.
can tell you.
So hang on. You have seen with your eyes in UDA, Jubilee, URP rallies, ODM rallies, where people were given money and said, you go and contribute.
You would be a stranger in Jerusalem
I'm
if
asking,
you think that is not what is happening.
Hang on,
I
Sawe.
can tell you for
Hang
sure.
on, Sawe, because you have made the claim.
Yes.
Not me.
Yes.
So I am asking you where you were that you saw individuals maybe in a vehicle, in bags, giving people money and saying, go and give money on the stage. You made the claim, so I'm asking you to back it up.
They have said it themselves. When they divided these politicians, I remember that the day Sifuna left ODM, Junet was telling him that when did Uhuru's, and Sifuna answered that, indeed, when did Uhuru's money become bad money? When he was giving us money when we were in Azimio, it wasn't bad money, now it's bad money. And there is evidence, everything is leading to that direction.
Okay, so
I can assure you,
the
former president Uhuru Kenyatta is financing Linda Mwananchi.
My initial question
and Linda
here,
Mwananchi.
allow me to ask the question.
Yes.
Sawe. My initial question, and I'd like us to stay there.
Yes.
The people of Kenya who were in the villages, who were coming out to these rallies, give me an example historically, and history is even yesterday, historically, of these people who were giving out this money in the 100s or the 50s had been given the money in their hands and then they were told, go and donate.
I can assure you that's what is happening. You saw in the videos. This was live coverage. There is a gentleman who was hit riding his bicycle on the road, minding his business. Do you think that person didn't know that there was a Sifuna? Why didn't he go and contribute? He was minding his business. But the people who were mobilized in the towns are the ones who came close to the vehicle. I can assure you, when you look at those pictures very well, the same people we'll find in Kisumu are the same people there. And those are the people who are contributing monies just to make it look like there is some sort of organic liking that's happening in Sifuna, and that now all of a sudden the people of Mulembe have seen a savior in Sifuna that they've never seen in all their leaders from Masinde Muliro. And Sifuna is worth
were the
them.
people in All Kalau last weekend who were given their 10 shillings also given that money by Gachagwa's people to deliver?
They told us that they were giving out monies that they were given. They
by
said,
UDA.
I think that's what they said.
Okay.
Yeah. So, so anyway, either way, they were giving out money that they were given.
We both agree that there's a way politics has been done in this country for a very long time, right? And there is also an agreement that it is not the right thing. But one asks the question then, can a people rise and say, we have done things the same way and we can't continue doing it that way and expect different results? That today Wananchi themselves are saying, this is our agenda. Case in point, All Kalau. This is our agenda. Let's do things differently. We are seeing the same as Sifuna has gone back for our homecoming. And the people are there. I mean, are we just afraid to accept that Kenyans finally are charting a different path moving forward? And they are communicating that it is no longer business as usual. You're either with us or you are on your own.
Yeah, I think Sifuna is also trying to dismantle the ethnic balkanization of our politics. That we've always been tribal, ethnic. People will talk about the Kikuyu, the Kalenjin, but Sifuna is trying to dismantle. There's a lot of hope among young voters in Sifuna, especially at a time like this when the social fabric of the country is shaken and our democracy is very threatened. So I think Sifuna is really coming to just offer that. I think the question of money, whether who is financing what, who is not financing what, that doesn't actually play so much. I think what is important is that people are realizing now that we need to even elect. And this is not only about the presidency.
Yeah.
I'm being a young person, and you're going for a parliamentary seat, I'm expecting a lot of young people are coming to take positions in the next election. So I think the most important thing here is for us to know that, for example, the traditional political chessboard that we are used to is really is moving, is tilting. And Sifuna is able to prove that. I think the likes of Wetang'ula and Mudavadi must be really, really thinking very hard what happens next, including Atwoli, because I think Bungoma is the bedrock of the Western Kenyan politics. And once the majority Bukusu decide where to go, then you will actually realize that. And they have always been blamed that they have divided their votes. That they are not actually they're not the determining factors, but they have always been Luhya vote has always been divided. But I think now this is a clear indication that maybe they are trying to galvanize their vote into one basket. So let's wait and see what happens. Sifuna has not yet even formed a party. He indicated yesterday that might be something new is coming. This is just a movement. So let's see what happens. And that's why I was saying that once probably maybe he comes up with a party, we expect a lot of defections. I saw the likes of Kina Wangamati, Tim Wanyonyi also endorsing Sifuna. So there's actually a Sifuna movement, a Sifuna effect that is actually now making getting its inroads in Western politics.
Okay, I want to ask Sawe that when you see people coming out, is it just the support for an individual, or is it on the hope that they're riding that something different can actually happen in a political dispensation in which they're involved in? Can you see that? Or is it, again, you say that people are willing to allow themselves to be used as elements or agents of manufacture?
So we are not leaving that option, that there are people, and unfortunately young people, because these are the people without jobs, they are the people with energy, and they are easily used and lured. And that's why the whole issues around goonship and being used in politics and all that. However, the will of the people is still supreme. And I hold on to the hope that the people of Kenya really know what they want. They know what they want. And that is why even Linda Mwananchi are really struggling to try and paint a picture that they are a microwave political alignment, that all of a sudden they are the hope and they've been the most popular within a week and they are all over the place, and saying that they have the backing of the Western people. But I think how the people of Kenya express what they want is differently. One of the ways that I would say the people of Kenya have continuously expressed what they want is through the different elections that we've had. I want you to go back to the 2022 elections. And William Ruto spent a lot of time coming up with what the Kenyan person would resonate with, the bottom-up economic transformational model. He talked about how you do housing, how you do the universal health coverage, how it would change how the funding model would be done, how the economy would grow. Well, today, he's had at least 3.5 years in office.
And 50% of those things have been touched out the window.
I'd say it depends on how you look at it.
No, they have been.
Sure.
I'll give you an example. Just the other day, this funding model that you mentioned, the president himself stood and said, we will fund, because the funding model does not work.
And do you know why it didn't work?
Because it was not planned properly from the very beginning.
The way this funding model had been designed was that the first was to get a metric of who is being funded and how much is this person able to raise. And the way they design it, and it was designed, by the way, by the parliamentarians, how the funding would be done. It's an act. And what they did is that they were saying if you are able to fund yourself, then you'll have a lower loan, a lower grant, then more loan. And eventually when you get out of school, you come and repay. The same way we got loans from HELB and we came back to pay. But you see, the biggest problem that we faced in such programs is in the truth, the lack of truth. Most of the Kenyans who are actually able to pay for school fees didn't say that they are able to pay, and therefore everybody was needy, and therefore everyone needed to be funded 100%. What the funding model helped, although it had to be thrown out of the window, what it helped is that it actually came up with a true picture of the cost of each degree in our public universities. Because I used to ask myself, Ndi, and not Ndi, but Ndu, how
you could ask Ndi as well, but okay.
I don't want to ask Ndi. I used to ask myself, how come a degree, same degree, Bachelor of Commerce, in Strathmore University, you'd get it at a minimum of 2 million. same degree in University of Nairobi, they expect the lecturers and the infrastructure, the tools and everything needed to train people in University of Nairobi to afford a BCom degree at 120,000, which is not even one semester in Strathmore. And what happened? We had our universities closing because of debts from KPLC, debts because of water. The lecturers were becoming demotivated. They were running to private institutions. The quality of education went down, and we had challenges all over the place. When the president came, he said, first, let's know the true cost of what it actually cost to study these courses and get a quality person coming out of the schools. And after that, they did a model that they thought would actually be able to pay. But unfortunately, because people gave the wrong information, even someone who went to private institution would now all of a sudden they said they are not able to afford it. And what has the government said? The government has said, then let's give 100% grant. What we need to do is go back to what HELB used to do, but now increase the allocation to help to match what the universities need. Which for me, let me just finish, Dennis, by saying, which for me, it is not wrong as a leader to run, and when you get in the middle and you realize that what you are doing is not giving the results that you expected, you change and proceed with the people. Because the most important thing is to move with the people. If it's not working, change it. You don't have to force it. And that's one sign of good leadership. And personally, if there is one thing that I appreciate William Ruto for, is that he's always taken time to reflect. Let me finally say that that's not the only metric that I can say the people of Kenya are still in control. The other metric that gives me hope that the people of Kenya are still in control is how the people of Kenya have continuously refused programs that they don't want, accepted programs that they want. I remember the opposition continuously said that SHA does not work. When Rigathi Gachagua was the deputy president, SHA was working. The moment he stepped out, SHA is not working. But the people of Kenya went back and stood their ground and said, SHA is working because we know these are the people who've come out of hospital, they've been paid for all these. What we just need to do is to continue improving it.
You see, Wafula, for me, I have no problem with projects that come through. The only bond of contention usually is the Constitution itself demands that wananchi are carried through and become part and parcel of every new thing that is being implemented. You know, when you talk about even the funding model, we were told there's a funding model that is here. This is what the government thinks will work. But did the key stakeholders in these spaces, were they involved for them to give their input on what needs to change, what needs to be fixed? Because just like SHA, many are saying, we never needed a new program altogether. All we needed to do is to fix NHIF that we had for it to work. When it comes to HELB, now we are going back to HELB that we said is not working and fixing what we ought to have fixed in the first place. Yet there is money that has been spent in new funding model. And to me as a Kenyan, that is money lost. That is money wasted that we ought not to have wasted before. There is reason why in a lot of even medicine, there is trials that are made before something is certified to be good for the public. It is only in Kenya where we are coming up with new things without trying to see whether it will work or not. But now that you're talking about the current campaign financing, campaigns that we're seeing, one thing that wananchi are asking is, are we being heard? Are we being listened to? Do they know our agenda? Because for a very long time, it has been, this is my agenda for you. But are we coming back to hear what wananchi is taking as their agenda and go with that to convince that you can implement that which they have prescribed upon themselves?
I think the biggest challenge we've had, I don't like using this word, the people of Kenya, because most of the time we say the Kenyans have said, Kenyans have done this. I think there's a thin line between what is political party manifesto vis-a-vis government programs.
Yes.
And you find many times when political parties assume power, they confuse that government programs that have been running are supposed, like for example, the plan. Probably it was a well-thought idea, but the implementation is being implemented from a political sphere as opposed to a proper government program. And that's why we have things like, for example, Nyota. I don't understand why you would be dishing money to people and not being able to give free education or fund universities, yet you're having programs where people are lining up to collect 25,000?
Yeah.
And I think you could do. So that's where the problem is. I think and I thought probably with ODM merging or whatever broad-based, they would harmonize their manifestos, because I think even ODM itself within UDA, within the broad-based, has a manifesto. I don't know whether they have merged their manifesto or it's just the 10-point agendas. So I think we need to depart from political party manifesto to understanding national programs. For now, we are talking about going to Singapore. It was not initially there in the plan, but it has somehow gotten itself now. It's part of what the plan entails. When President Ruto was campaigning, he never told us he's going to take us to Singapore. He had a clear, what they call the plan. But now all this has been overtaken to something now called that now we are going to Singapore. Now we are going to have a national infrastructure fund, things that were not there. So I think that once we have that level of confusion, then you realize now even when they plan, they now get to where they've gotten today with the issue of university funding. And I remember the president having dialogue with university students, and they were discussing at length about the funding models, and some of them raised a lot of issues. I remember the president giving them an assurance that nobody will be left out. But look, is it the president who is not doing the things right, or are people misleading him? And I think it's also high time for the president to look at some of the so many called advisors. Some of them might not be giving him the proper advice, because what happens after 3 years, you come almost to the stretch to the next election, you realize what you are doing was not right, and you need to review it. So I think too many advisors, this is what you get.
I just also wanted to say that the group that formed the university funding model was actually not Parliament. It was a Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms. It was a group of people led by one Bwana Munavu, who went around the country, and then they came and they formed this. It was after they formed it that it was then taken to Parliament.
Okay.
And it was assented to by the president, and that's how then it became an act. So my point being that there's a lot of work that goes into some of these things, too much work, too much painstaking work, too many resources. You can imagine what it took for them to go around the whole country, right? You can imagine what it took to then be on the hope. And this is just one example. Going back to and I'm always going to stick to that question, that whether we're going to talk about for the people or for the people of Kenya, for Kenyans, that what is it for them and what do people actually want? Because the pain point here, nobody cares. Look, people have gone to Bungoma and they've been there in the hundreds of thousands, but people are coming back to the realities when they come back to their homes. And what brings them out of their door again tomorrow when there is another rally is the hope that it'll be better tomorrow. So you've dashed their hopes against a stone after 3 years when they thought, okay, fine, my child who got an A plane in her KCSE, for example, to go to university, but we can't afford it, right? When there is hope that possibly somebody will actually come and do what they mean or do what they say, you don't realize what you do to people when that doesn't happen. So when after 3 years, you essentially dissolve all that work that went into place and come and say, okay, we're going to fund it. People are going to start asking you questions. So where's the money going to come from? You've just had a budget. How come you didn't tell us that I was going into it? And then even if you have a supplementary budget, a lot of the times when we see the supplementary budget coming into place, a lot of that money goes towards state function. These are the questions that people are asking. And it doesn't matter. It could be a goat that would come in and say, I want to be president. But if you're not doing the things that are going to ensure that the people's hope will never be dashed against a rock, you're wasting people's time.
I agree with you entirely. And what I want to look into is how do we change our politics into candidates talking about what they will do, when they will do, how they will do, and actually what financing will they use to do them.
And the other day, because I had to bring this up and I forgot. Last week, the president again said, "Ikinge heavy." Huh? The minute a woman gets pregnant,
Yes.
am I lying?
Yeah,
The
he
minute a
said
woman
that.
gets pregnant, we will take care of her, the baby, even the husband. We will take care of all of you. Leave it to me. He said it again the other day. So now you tell me how many people are thinking today, oh, fantastic. Now I don't have to worry about my pregnancy and my childbearing for the next 3 months.
Before I come to that, so I was explaining that all over the place, candidates are running up and down. I saw they were saying Kalonzo is working from home, taking nice pictures and posting. Sifuna is indeed in the field, but he's not talking about what he will do. In fact, it's so demeaning for someone who wants to be president to say that for Luyas, Luyas have to go into their houses with chickens. Yet we've actually tried as a country to move from Kibera being a place where, tourists come and all these NGOs, and people are very happy. We want to take you to Kibera so that you can see the biggest, the biggest squalor, the biggest, the biggest place where people don't have water, people don't have toilets, people are living like animals. So when William Ruto came in, he actually changed the way politics are done. And I think it will be very difficult for any other person who will not match how he does his politics to get in. Because today, however much our politics may be divided into tribes, we may be divided into economic classes and all these manner of things, the people of Kenya still know what they want. And no one, apart from William Ruto today, is trying to actually give them an option of what they need to do. I'd give you a very good example. Let me use housing as an example.
Quickly with your example.
Housing today is actually a need. We have over 7 million Kenyans who are still living in slums. And we've seen what is done in Mukuru. He may not settle all the 7 million people in 5 years, but we've seen some progress. Youths and hope. The building of stadiums, the improvement of sport facilities, that is an asset that is being built that then would just need connection between the federations that we have to improve how the quality of sports is. When tomorrow we have all these African games and all that being played here, it even spurs inspiration in our young people to start looking into it. Healthcare is very important. You've talked about the president saying yesterday that Linda Mama is now Linda Jamii, and that's what he was explaining in simple terms. What he was simply saying is that we are going to take care of pre and postnatal care in simple terms. So that's what he was just trying to explain. We might want to make it an issue of saying, it's a promise. It's not a promise. It's already what is in the universal healthcare in SHA. So SHA has a prenatal and postnatal care. Finally, on the funding model of education, it's true it came from that body that was led by, you say it is called?
Mudavadi.
Yes, which I think that's how government works. But the parliament is where the people are. That's where our representatives are. So my expectation was when it gets to parliament, because someone has to coin it, but when it got to parliament, my expectation was that the parliamentarians, through the public participation, the education committee, would have actually done their assignment to actually get those views. Nevertheless, that was not done. It was passed. True, it didn't give us the outcome we expected. The president met the youths, the university students, they gave him his views, and he went back and changed what had already been agreed. Why? Because he's a president that actually listens to the people.
Our time is up, unfortunately. But I think that why this needs to be continually engaged on, because there's some things that are truth and there are other things that mask themselves as the truth. But we want to thank both of you for being here this morning. Elijah Sauer is a youth leader, UDA, and Evans Wafula, political analyst. Asante Sana, both for you being here. Good morning.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.